Hi all. Been out to do the old folk shopping. They're sorted. Okay. Chapter 13. Hi to anybody that's still listening. Chapter 13. As the days passed, there was a place on the ship that Arthur and Maudie loved most of all, and they sneaked off to it in the free time allowed every evening after dinner. The Aurora's library was a small room with wooden shelves from floor to ceiling, and all the books were about geography, science, exploration, history, and engineering. Felicity had added some of her own, rare herbs of the northern marshes, Lontaine broths, and her favourite, 100 teas from far away. Maudie was already on the second shelf of engineering books and was reading a history of ship aviation by Corintha Strunk. What a name. While Arthur was devouring the books about history, many of the same titles that had been in their library at home, but he never tired of them. To see them again felt like finding a little piece of home. Today, one particular book caught his eye, a journal that must have been the notes for exploring in the Third Age, a potted overview by Armitage Wigglesworth. They've got some weird names in here. Every word was handwritten, and the illustrations meticulously drawn. Mr. Wigglesworth was a revered academic expert on everything explorer related. Arthur turned the pages with delicate precision, making sure he didn't smudge any. There were little additional notes scribbled in the margins with extra facts that he couldn't remember having read in the printed copy in the library at home, and Arthur lapped up the details. He turned to the section with notes on explorer families of the Third Age. The directory was in alphabetical order, starting with the Aquafrida family, then the Aldermasters on the opposite page. The name Aquafrida was beautifully scrolled, and beside it was a drawing, their explorer family symbol. It was a huge fat fish, and each scale had been beautifully rendered. To the side was a description of the family traits and characteristics, legendary and master handlers of seaborne ships, usually quite indemure, yet characteristically bold, especially in the water. Value all things seaworthy and of the sea. He read on to the section of the page marked history. The Aquafridas were the first explorers to ever take to the sea in the Second Age of exploration. Their legendary crossing was to the Western Isles, the most significant step since the discovery of the route through the northern marshes at the end of the First Age of exploration. The Aquafridas never took to the invention of skyborne ships at the dawn of the Third Age of exploration, and while the family remains active in exploring, they mainly concern themselves with exploring down rather than out, and spend much researching ways of travelling beneath the water itself, a much frowned upon and often laughed at exploit, which has lost them some credibility over the years. Arthur looked over at Maudie, sprawled on the floor, her nose an inch away from her book. This explorer family wants to explore underneath the water, Maud. Imagine! Fascinating, she said dreamily, as she snapped her book shut and took another from the engineering section. The shelves had become littered with strands of ribbon, marking the pages Maud was most excited by. Arthur read on. After the A family pages came the Bathwiffles, the Bestwick Fords, the Blarringtons, Bottomroys. He flipped the page quickly to the C's. There was no mention of the Brightstorms in this book. They were too new to the scene. The usual route to becoming an explorer meant being born into a wealthy explorer family in Lontown. But their father had broken the mould. Arthur remembered the piece of paper in his iron arm that had been torn from the book. At least their family had made it into one book, and it gave him comfort to know the image of the Brightstorm moth was there, as though their father was somehow travelling with them. He glanced over the next page, which was the Catmull explorers, whose symbol was a cat, obviously, with a tail curled into a question mark. He rushed through their family history, then flipped the page, knowing what was coming next. Culpeper. He traced his fingers over the two birds facing each other, dipped in flight, but his eyes met him. They were so lifelike and intricately drawn. He'd never wanted to stare too long at Harriet's tattoo. It seemed impolite, but now he could study the detail of the feathers and the aerodynamic shape of the wings, which now struck him as identical to the shape of the Aurora's wings. He read the characteristics: loyal and true, inventive, bold. It was so simple, much more so than the others, yet it summed Harriet up perfectly. He read on. The swallow tattoo is a symbol for everlasting love and loyalty to the family. Swallow pairs, native to the northernmost lands of the first continent, travel long distances only to find their way back to each other at home. That's beautiful, he whispered. Maud said again in a tone which meant she still wasn't listening. I read that feeling that some people don't listen. The Culpepers were one of the first to venture the enormous distance across the sea to the second continent. Before their expeditions, the family name was Culpeper, but was adapted with the discovery and return of the rare peppers and spices from the second continent, which are commonplace in Lontan society today. No wonder the map of the second continent he'd seen on the ship was so incredibly detailed. He carried on through the explorer names, and by the time the sun dipped on the horizon, through the small porthole window of the library, he had almost reached the end of the alphabet. Although he was squinting to read, he didn't want to stop to light a lamp, because the next name was Vane. He remembered seeing Madame Vane's family symbol when she visited them in the attic room. Now he could see the details of this strange creature, a serpent with claws clutching a suspended ring. At the bottom of the ring was a rose, and inside the ring, on top of the rose, was a great winged insect, was poised. It was a strange mixture of something strong and beautiful. He read the characteristics: kind, courageous, wise. The adjustable vein-like tips of the wings give the serpent absolute precision in flight and the ability to outfly smaller prey. One of the most long-standing explorer families in Lontan, their reputation was made with the discovery of the East Insula, where the precious and valuable pink dye in Lontan known as rosa originated from the huge endangered beetles named the Rosa scarabus, found living on one of the islands. He looked at the symbol again. There was something bothering him about the illustration, but he couldn't work out what. Maudie tapped his shoulder and he jumped. Come on, you can't read in this light, and Welby will be looking for us if we don't do the evening check soon. He placed the green ribbon in the page and put the book back on the shelf. What are you frowning about? Maudie asked. Something I can't put my finger on. At that moment, Welby whipped the door open and dangled his pocket watch before them. We know, said Maudie, pulling Arthur along the corridor. Then she whispered, That man can sure say a lot with his eyebrows. I know what we could do. Hang on, I'll put the book away. If you would like to design maybe a symbol for what your ship could be like there's the moth and the serpent with the ring, And if you like to do that and draw it and then get an adult to upload it to where all these are on my Facebook page, or if you want to add them, if you can, in the comments for this, and then we see if I can put them on there and see. I don't know, that might be a bit too step far for me, but I'll give it a go. Right, see you next time. Bye.